Logan Paul, of course, one of the more popular influencers slash YouTubers, and now a WWE wrestler and podcaster, actually owns one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive Pokemon card in the world. It's actually worth $5.275 million. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Rod's Comics. This is a very interesting episode. It's a rivalry between two major hobbies amongst the young and the old, mostly boys and men. We are talking about comics versus cards. Depends on which side you're taking. I actually a part of both hobbies, I guess, with my son, more into cards, and I'm more into comics. Right now, if you talk about the hobby in terms of its current standing and popularity and demand and investment potential and all that, I would have to say, obviously, cards. That's the hottest thing right now. Everybody's collecting sports cards. Everybody's collecting, Pokemon cards. Everybody's collecting Magic the Gathering cards. Everybody's collecting all sorts of cards. I mean, there are Dragon Ball cards. There are One Piece cards. There are cards that's related to anime. There are cards that's related to sports, be it baseball, NBA. There's always a card line for any particular interest, especially when it comes to the interest of men. It's an easier hobby to get into. So if you want to get into card collecting, all you have to have is money. You don't really, and of course, an internet connection, so you can research on which cards to get and how to build up your collection and how to get a respectable collection of cards. Again, all it requires is money, all right? You don't have to know very much about cards. Logan Paul, of course, one of the more popular influencers slash YouTubers, and now a WWE wrestler and podcaster, actually owns one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive Pokemon card in the world, the Illustrator. He has it as a necklace, all right? And he wears it proudly, obviously as a bling, and he brags about its value. That card, which is the PSA 10, that's the highest grade you can get for any card. It's actually worth, well, at least he paid $5.275 million for it. Of course, because of its rarity and because of the demand and all that. I think what he did was he threw in some cash and then he swapped some of his other cards. I think there were Charizards, if I'm not mistaken. So he was able to swap a deal, and now he's the proud owner of the most expensive Pokemon card known to man. I don't know if he knows how to play the game. I don't know if he even knows that Pokemon is actually a card game. I don't know if he cares much about its history, its lineage, the video games and all that. All he had was money, and he thought it was investment potential. He bought it. There are other cards out there, of course. The Mickey Mantle rookie card, the ever popular, iconic part of American history, currently holds a record for the most expensive in terms of collectible cards. It's $12.6 million. 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle card. A lot of celebrities are into cards as well. Tom Brady recently opened this card vault shop. I think he has several already, if I'm not mistaken. Cards are also easier to handle. They're smaller. They're easier to maintain because it's only one card. You don't have to care about the pages and all that stuff. Easier to send out to get graded. They're easier to display. You don't have to have a lot of space. It's easier to swap and sell as well, because currently cards are in demand and a lot of people just carry around their cards. And when you go to a card convention, it's like 10 times more exciting and more lively and more dynamic. Comic book conventions are kind of like full of 40-plus-year-old men, just buying, selling, swapping the same comic books with each other. And, it's not really drawing in a young audience, but we'll get to that in another episode, all right? Kids are into cards, and the parents, the dads are also into cards. So they do it as a hobby together. And, the kids might be into the Pokemons and the dads might be into the basketball cards. So they can go to the conventions, together. Whereas with comic books, a lot of the older Silver Age, Golden Age comic books, even the Bronze Age, are more the dad's thing. Very few kids out there actually go out and buy comic books to read, because look at the digital era. There are other forms of entertainment. There's social media, there's YouTube, there's Netflix, there's TikTok, all that stuff, right? So kids don't really need to grab a comic book and read to be entertained. And it seems like nobody's really reading nowadays. to begin with. I mean, you see bookstores, bookshops, comic shops closing down left and right, which is a sad thing, but there's still a few out there. And I think it's the fault also of the dads and a lot of the parents out there for not encouraging their kids to read more and introduce them to the classic form of media and entertainment, which is comic books. If you go to a card convention, you don't see these guys nerding out about, ooh, you know, the Pokemon started like this, Pikachu is like this. They don't. They just like, swap you this card for this card. All right, deal. How much is your last price for that card? I could do 200. All right, deal. That's it. But if you go to like a comic convention, you know, you get this conversation hanging around, you know, like, oh, that's the first issue or first appearance of like this. Oh, the cameo appearance of Wolverine is actually full appearance, you know, and whatnot. You know, there are all these arguments and catching up and just a better connection with comic collectors more than card collectors. The pack opening craze. I mean, you see it left and right. You see these guys recording, these influencers who are recording their pack opening, and then they open like a grail card or something and you freak out. Of course, you read the comments and everybody's kind of like pissed off. They're like, oh, they send out, you know, the loaded packs to the influencers or the YouTubers, whatever, to get better exposure and stuff like that. But anyways, whether you believe in it or not, I don't know. I mean, there's just a lot of people who are into the curiosity of watching a pack opening and themselves opening packs, which is not part of the comic book collecting hobby, right? With cards, you buy a blind pack, you open it, you get several cards in there, and there's that excitement, that thrill that you get out of, you know, pulling a grail card. Whereas with comic books, you get what you pay for. That's the comic book you want, that's the comic book you get. So sports cards, there's that human element, right? So these are the Pokemon cards. This is my son's collection. It's not the best of them. I think his two favorites are these two cards. These are my son's two favorite cards. He pulled this one on his birthday, if I'm not mistaken. And this is a Charizard EX. I don't know what the value is, but he loves this card because he pulled it on his birthday from a pack that we bought at a local toy store. So that's a Charizard EX. And also a Pikachu card that we got from a Happy Meal, which is fairly rare by Happy Meal standards. So I think this is one of the sought after cards from the McDonald's Happy Meal. So he got, actually it was his little brother who got this. His little brother was hospitalized. I bought him one Happy Meal and the little brother pulled this, right? So there, these are the two. And these are just some. This is an album's worth of Pokemon cards. And he has more, trust me. Nobody owns just a few cards. Now, that's my son's. Mine, NBA cards. I have a ton of baseball cards, but I'm not going to show it here because I'm really more into the comic book collecting. But I did dip my hands into card collecting as well. So I have some rookies here. I have Allen Iverson, my favorite NBA player, and I guess my all-time favorite NBA player. I have his rookie. I have another Iverson rookie. So there, I have two Iverson rookies, two Shaquille O'Neal rookies. These were given to me by my brother-in-law. So shout out to Chris, my sister's husband. I have two Shaquille O'Neal rookies. I'm not really a Shaq fan, but I was in high school when he was drafted, so very relatable. I have two Kobe rookies as well. I'm also not a Kobe Bryant fan, but you know, I respect his game and his Mamba mentality. And nothing major, just a regular player, Mark Jackson, who I think coached also, or is still a coach, assistant coach at this time. Now, what's important about this card is that it features the Menendez brothers. If you don't know the Menendez brothers, just Google it, and I'm pretty sure this card will probably pop up because you can see them in the background watching an NBA game, and they were captured in photo in this card. The Menendez brothers and a Mark Jackson card. And I have an Emmitt Smith rookie card. I'm also an NFL fan, and I did buy some NFL cards back in the day, and this is probably the best card that I got out of the lot. Not worth much. So with comic books, you get the nostalgia factor. You know, a comic book preserves an era in society. You know, a time period that's preserved in the pages of a comic book. When you read it, that was written and that was drawn at the time, you know, from a time that's gone by, right? Time long gone. So when you read a comic book, you're basically taken back in time to that period of, like for example, let's say you read this comic book. This is, I think, from the 60s. So this Iron Man. This is Iron Man number 53. And this is from, I'm pretty sure this is from either the mid to late 60s. Correct me if I'm wrong. And, you can see the art style, you can see the fashion. That's actually Black Widow on the cover. That's her second appearance. And this is, I think, the first appearance of Jarvis, Tony Stark's assistant, virtual robot, whatever assistant, the AI assistant that he has from way back. So, yeah, this is the first appearance of Jarvis and the second appearance of Black Widow, Iron Man 53, and this is from way back to 60s. And you can tell, right, that's definitely not a modern book. Now, if you compare it to a modern book, we'll get to that in a bit, but I'll just show you another older comic book. So it preserves an era. Look at the art style. X-Men number 10. First appearance of Kazar, first appearance of Savage Lands. So look at that. Jack Kirby art, Stan Lee writing. I mean, compare that to a card that just has a front and a back and full of stats, right? It's just, comic book just has more nostalgia to it, more soul to it, more character to it, and the excitement of opening the pages and reading the story, and it's getting immersed in the world of comics. Comic books also have movie tie-ins. Of course, there's Detective Pikachu, the movie, but not very many cards have tie-ins with movies. Whereas with comic books, this comic book actually first came out before the movie The Crow. And this is The Crow number 2. And tragic story by the writer and artist of this comic book. And it translates in the Brandon Lee movie, which obviously has a tragic background itself. All right? So there is that tie-in. So speaking of movie tie-ins, it's not the only one. We'll get to some. There are also interesting tidbits like collaborations, or what they call this, crossovers. All right, the crossover, Archie and the Punisher. Who would have thought? And speaking of movies, people are excited for the upcoming Supergirl movie. So I have an old Supergirl number 1 and I have a more modern Supergirl number 1. Both have very cool covers, as you can see, right? And speaking of movies, Thunderbolts, that's the first appearance. Oh no, this is Thunderbolts number 1, I think. Yeah, this is Thunderbolts number 1 comic book, which is actually a really cool Marvel Universe film, but just wasn't really a box office hit. But I think they're making a comeback in the Doomsday movie. And Spawn also had a movie, right? Watchmen also had a movie. One of my favorites, but a lot of people didn't seem to like it, but I liked it. And of course, I also read the graphic novel. And recent Fantastic Four, right? You can see the character of that, right? Look, this is fairly old. This is Fantastic Four number 47. So this is with the Inhumans, I think. Yeah, I think this is the one where they went up against the Inhumans, if I'm not mistaken. This is right before 48, so there. That's Fantastic Four. Really old, that's from the 60s, I think 64, 65. And you also have, of course, Thanos, the Infinity Gauntlet. So if you read these comic books before you went to watch Avengers, Endgame and all that, Infinity War, you would be watching it from a different perspective, from the perspective of a collector. You'd be making comparisons, just like you read the Harry Potter books and then you watch Harry Potter movies. That's pretty much how it is. So yeah, Infinity Gauntlet, and this is like how many comic books are Infinity Gauntlet? I think 6, if I'm not mistaken. But the Watchmen had like 11 or 13, a lot. Anyways, first black costume, the symbiote costume of Spider-Man. And cameo appearance of Venom. Everybody knows Venom. So you can see how I'm making a point here about comic books introducing so many iconic characters and bringing them to life, not only on paper but on film as well. Carnage, first appearance of Carnage. And this is the Batman issue where Bane broke Batman's back. It's not his first appearance. I also have that, but this is the issue where he broke Batman's back, which was also a part of the movie Dark Knight Rises. And this is just, I'm just throwing this in for novelty purposes. It's Mortal Kombat, and as you can see, there you go, the Mortal Kombat characters, the first gen Mortal Kombat characters. You know, it's like it preserves time. Like if you read this, if you look at the cover, it's so freaking 90s, right? Like it takes you back. Of course, there's also the key issues where the first appearances, which I just showed you, with all those characters who were popularized by the movie versions. There's also the action figure culture, which a lot of it has connection with comic book characters. Just a lot more effort was put into this than in printing that little card, right? I mean, look at this. How many pages, how these were drawn, long nights, you know, took weeks to complete an issue. And just the connection between the writer and the penciler and the inker and the colorist, and you know, before it even gets printed and ends up in your hands. There's also the cosplay aspect of comic books that's not very much a part of the card, right, industry. And you know, obviously the sentimental attachment, and it inspires creativity. I actually developed my drawing skills because of my love for comic books. You have DJ Steve Aoki, one of the most extensive card collections. He has a card museum in his house. Yeah, Post Malone, who just paid $2 million for a Lord of the Rings Magic the Gathering card, the actual ring. He purchased that from a guy who lucked out on owning that card, and $2 million for a card, just like that, Post Malone. But when it comes to comic books, you have actors like Samuel Jackson, who is actually a DC Comics fan and has a DC Comics collection, considering he is Nick Fury from the Marvel Universe movie franchise. And you have Nicolas Cage, who at one time owned Action Comics #1, which is the most expensive comic book in the world. He apparently owned a copy of that, and he lost it, and I don't know if he was able to get it back. But yeah, Nicolas Cage, of course, a huge comic book fan. And surprisingly, former US President Barack Obama is a huge Spider-Man fan. So you are not alone in your love for comics. So either way, whichever hobby you choose, it's whatever tickles your fancy. Like I said, if you are into comic books, you're part of that world of story and art and history and nostalgia. If you're into cards, it's more about investment, maybe your connection to the athlete that's featured in them, or the pop culture that goes with it, like the Pokémon craze, right? So there you go. As long as both hobbies are thriving, as long as you're happy with your collection, you can't go wrong either way. Just make sure you collect responsibly. So this has been an episode of Rod's Comics. Comics or cards? Comics, of course. Until the next episode.